With the rumors of Destiny 3 about, it's important that we talk about some of the things that Destiny 3 is going to need in order to succeed and not fall down the same path that Destiny 2 did after its release. First, let's start with the beginning of Destiny 2. The large difference in game styles from the ending of Destiny 1 to the start of Destiny 2 was almost like an entirely different genre of game. They oversimplified the shoot-to-loot aspect of the game and oriented the PvP mode, the Crucible, objectively more competitive, or attempted to be more competitive, but to most, making the game feel worse than it did back in Destiny 1. They also changed the weapon system, making it a double primary with our special weapons being moved into the heavy slot. These things were all later changed with the expansion of Forsaken when that released. The issues with Destiny 2 have always bounced around from feeling great, to feeling bad, to then feeling worse, and so on. Some seasons felt great, whereas others, players like myself, would end up taking a break from the game as a whole for the duration of the season. Destiny 3 is going to need to bring back that amazing feeling that we all felt when we first played Destiny 1. It's going to need to feel refreshing, and instead of taking 10 steps backwards, they need to come up with new ideas to go forward. When Destiny 1 came out, it was an otherworldly feeling game. The game was addicting to play. The concepts were new, and the weapons sounded and felt amazing. Something many players feel have been lost with Destiny 2. The sounds for a lot of Destiny 2 weapons sound somewhat bland, if not nearly as unique as they did in Destiny 1. Though, with later additions, some of those weapons retained that sound. But it seemed almost as a step backwards, or a couple steps backwards, instead of moving forward. Destiny 2 made exotics feel more like legendaries as far as how you obtained them, and how often you obtained them. Some of them felt exotic, and others felt pretty boring, and not deserving of the exotic title. These exotics have actually gotten some reworks throughout their lifetime to make them feel a little bit more unique and more like an exotic, but nonetheless were pretty underwhelming when first obtained. Destiny 3 is going to need a new form of rarity, something that really feels unique and makes you feel like a real guardian, like it did back in Destiny 1 with the exotics that we had. It needs to also not be handed out like candy. Destiny 2 seems to hand exotics out like candy, especially in today's world where I hop on to play a game and I get 4, 5, maybe even 6 exotics in a 2-hour play session. Back in Destiny 1, I'd get maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 if I was lucky exotics a week, every 2 weeks, maybe even a month. Of course, back in the day with Xur, we did have in Destiny 1 where if you had enough strange coins you could buy exotic pieces of armor or other exotic weapons. Sometimes you wouldn't have obtained enough so you could only buy the armor or the weapon, but sometimes you could be stocking up all those strange coins so you could buy 2. But that wasn't always the case. The other way to obtain exotics was by playing Crucible. You could get them from the endgame screen of Crucible and Nightfalls, and you of course could get some from raids. There was something about seeing the drops you and your fire team obtained after spending a lot of time, especially in harder content like the endgame Nightfalls and raids back in the day. Something about it just made it feel a little bit more special, something more rewarding. The Destiny 3 grind is going to need to feel new. It's going to need to feel worth it. I shouldn't feel like I'm just wasting all my time trying to get to this one point just so I could play this one activity, but I have to grind for 80 hours just to get there. Doing the same thing over and over again. Strikes, Gambit, Crucible, strikes, Gambit, Crucible. Of course, there is going to be repetition whenever it comes to leveling, but the repetition should only go so far where it feels like I can be doing the same activity, but maybe have variations. Take Warframe for example. While I could be doing the same activity, maybe grinding the same boss, the tile sets for all the maps are different, so you can continue to play the game, and it feels a little bit more rewarding. Especially after you get that drop that you've grinded so many times and killed that boss hundreds of times you know his dialogue lines by heart. Destiny 3 is going to need that. With Destiny 2's newest expansion, The Final Shape, coming up here in June, it is getting an entire rework to how the leveling system does function, which is going to be unique, but we don't know quite yet what exactly that's going to entail, so we're not quite sure if it's something that's going to be retained for Destiny 3 when and if that does release, or if Destiny 3 is going to need something entirely new and able to retain the player's vision. Something that I'm going to tie in here that's specific to players that play multiple classes or multiple characters is every new season that we get, there's new quests. With these quests, for those that play more than one character, you have to repeatedly complete those quests in order to progress that character. Sometimes that makes the grind feel a little bit too repetitive and really boring. While you have to do this 65-step quest on one character, then you have to move to your next character, and if you want to unlock X, Y, and Z in that season, you have to move through that 65-step quest on that character, and so on. That can be really troublesome whenever you're just trying to get to the activity. Certain quests like that should just be account bound instead of character bound. I understand some quests on the shorter lengths being character bound, of course, but when it comes to the overall seasonal quest, that should be account bound. There have always been a lot of issues with the launch of both games. Bungie is going to really need to change some stuff up to learn from the past instead of briefly fix the issue and then forget about it, as they have in the past. Destiny 3 is going to really have to explode with positivity and a really good feeling at the beginning of the game instead of restarting their entire process again. Now, that's not to say that certain things shouldn't be started fresh. Today, for those who I've spoke to, have come to the conclusion that a complete refresh of Destiny 3 isn't such a bad thing. In fact, a lot of people are actually on board with it. I also find myself on the same side where I feel that a complete refresh is probably warranted and may even feel better for Destiny 3 as long as they do things correctly. Certain things that they're going to need to have to do correctly from the start is going to be loot rewards, your XP level progression system, and the methods of how you get that grinding to the final level point. Your grind shouldn't feel like a chore. It should feel exciting, and you should feel like you want to do it rather than you have to do it. That's the current issue that we had and have had for a long time with Destiny 2. Each season you get your pinnacle gear, and then it goes up, and then you have to re-get your pinnacle gear, and you have to do the same pinnacle activities every single time, but nothing really feels changed. That's something that's going to need to be avoided with Destiny 3 to the best of their capabilities. Now, the list can go on and on and on about what Destiny 3 is going to need in order to survive and bring back the population to Destiny. Destiny's had a lot of identity crises, but I feel like they're starting to actually narrow it down now. With that being said, let me know your suggestions and your thoughts on Destiny 3, what you feel about the leaks, the current state of Destiny 2, and if you prefer to have a complete reset or if you want everything to carry forward. I would love to hear more on your thoughts. Thank you for taking the time to check out this video. There's a lot more that I could talk about in Destiny 3 to help better it over Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, especially at the launch. So much that I could probably talk about it for about 2 hours long, but I won't make a video that long. Maybe we'll make it a stream. So let's take the conversation to the comments. Subscribe to stay up to date with my content and ring that bell to enable notifications. And I'll see you guys all in the next video.